Have you ever tried to do nothing and realized you couldn't? Not because you didn't have time, not because you had responsibilities, but because the moment you stopped, something inside you refused to stay still. This is the story of a man who had everything under control, except his own mind. His name was Ren. Every morning, before the sun touched the rooftops, Ren was already awake, not because he wanted to be, but because his thoughts wouldn't let him rest. Lists, plans, regrets, future conversations that hadn't happened yet, problems that didn't exist yet, but felt urgent. He lived in a small village surrounded by mountains, where the wind moved slowly and time seemed to stretch. But Ren never noticed, because inside him, everything moved too fast. He worked hard. He spoke little. People respected him. Some even admired him. But no one knew that every night, when silence finally arrived, he feared it, because silence forced him to face the one thing he couldn't escape, himself. So he stayed busy, always. If there was no work, he would find it. If there was nothing to fix, he would create a problem just to solve it. His hands were never still, his mind even less. Until one day, his body stopped him. Not dramatically, not suddenly. It began with something small, a moment where he forgot what he was doing. Then another, then a strange heaviness, like his thoughts were moving through water. And then one morning, he stood in the middle of his room and couldn't remember why he had gotten up. That was the first crack. And here's the question that changed everything. What happens when doing more only makes you lose yourself faster? If that question feels uncomfortable, good, because that's where this story begins. And if at any moment you feel like this story is talking about you, don't ignore it. Just stay. Ren was told to rest. At first, he resisted. Rest felt like failure, like wasting time, like falling behind in a race no one had asked him to run. But he refused to lose. But his body didn't give him a choice. So he stopped working. And that's when things got worse. Because when the body stops, the mind gets louder. Days passed, and the silence became unbearable. Thoughts he had buried for years began to surface. Memories, doubts, questions with no clear answers. He needed an escape. That's when someone mentioned the old man at the edge of the forest. They said he did nothing, literally nothing. No job, no visible purpose, no urgency. Just sitting, watching the wind, listening to the river, doing nothing. Ren didn't believe it. No one could live like that. But curiosity is a strange force. So one afternoon, with nothing left to distract him, Ren went to see him. He expected something impressive, a wise figure, a teacher, someone with answers. Instead, he found an old man sitting on a rock, doing nothing. No movement, no ritual, no sign of effort, just being there. Minutes passed. The old man didn't speak. Ren grew uncomfortable, then irritated, then restless. Finally, he broke the silence. "What are you doing?" The old man smiled slightly. "Nothing." Ren frowned. "That's impossible." The old man looked at him, not with judgment, but with a kind of quiet clarity. "Then try." And in that moment, something shifted. Because for the first time in his life, Ren realized he had never truly tried to do nothing. And what happened next would disturb him more than anything he had ever faced. Ren sat down. At first, it seemed simple. Just sit, do nothing. But within seconds, his mind rebelled. Thoughts rushed in like a storm breaking through a fragile door. What am I doing here? This is pointless. I should leave. I'm wasting time. I could be working. This man is a fraud. He shifted his posture. He looked around. He tried to focus on the trees, the wind, the sound of water. But his mind kept pulling him away, again and again. Minutes felt like hours. Then something unexpected happened. Beneath the noise, there was something else. Not silence, but space. Tiny at first, almost unnoticeable, like a gap between thoughts. And in that gap, something strange emerged. Discomfort, not physical, deeper. A feeling he had been avoiding for years. The old man spoke without looking at him. "Don't fight it." Ren clenched his jaw. "Fight what?" "The part of you that only appears when you stop running." Ren wanted to stand up, to leave, to go back to his old rhythm, his endless motion, his familiar distractions. But something held him there. Maybe pride, maybe curiosity, or maybe a quiet recognition that this was important. Days passed. Ren returned again, and again. Each time, the same battle. But something began to change. The thoughts didn't disappear, but they lost power. The noise didn't stop, but it softened. And in those small gaps, Ren began to notice things he had ignored his entire life. The way the wind moved through the leaves, the rhythm of his breath, the weight of his own presence. And then one day, he noticed something that shook him. He wasn't trying anymore. He was just there. No effort, no resistance, no need to be anywhere else. And for a brief moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not excitement, not achievement, something quieter, peace. But it didn't last, because the moment he noticed it, it disappeared. And that's when the old man finally said something that would change everything. "You're still trying to get something." Ren opened his eyes. "I'm not." The old man smiled. "You are. You're trying to feel peace. You're trying to do nothing, correctly." Ren felt a sharp resistance, because he knew it was true. Even in stillness, he was chasing, trying to improve, trying to achieve, trying to become someone better. Even here, even now. The old man picked up a small leaf and let it fall. "Does that leaf try to fall perfectly?" Ren said nothing. "Doing nothing," the old man continued, "is not something you do." Ren frowned. "Then what is it?" The old man looked at the sky. "It's what remains when you stop interfering." Silence, not empty, alive. Ren felt something loosen inside him. Not a breakthrough, not a revelation. Something simpler, a release. For the first time, he stopped trying to control the moment. He stopped observing himself, stopped measuring, stopped correcting. And in that absence of effort, something unexpected happened. Nothing. And yet, everything felt different. Time slowed. The pressure dissolved. The need to be somewhere else faded. And for the first time in his life, Ren wasn't becoming. He was. If you're still here, notice what your mind is doing right now. Is it analyzing, judging, waiting for the next insight? Good. That means you're starting to see it. Weeks later, Ren returned to his old life. Same village, same work, same people. But something was different. Not outside, inside. He still worked, but he no longer rushed. He still thought, but he no longer chased every thought. He still planned, but he no longer lived in the future. Sometimes he would stop in the middle of the day and do nothing, not as a technique, not as a ritual, but because there was nothing to add, nothing to fix, nothing to escape. And in those moments, life felt complete. Not perfect, complete. The old man never gave him answers, never taught him a method, never asked him to follow anything. He simply showed him something most people never realize: the constant need to do, is often what keeps you from living, and the art of doing nothing is not about abandoning life. It's about finally being present enough to experience it. So the next time you feel the urge to fill every second, to check your phone, to think ahead, to escape silence, pause just for a moment and ask yourself, what happens if I don't? Stay there just a little longer than feels comfortable, because on the other side of that discomfort, there's something waiting, not something you need to find, something you've been avoiding. And maybe that's where your real life begins.